December 1941. The air in the Washington intelligence office was thick with smoke and tension. Typewriters clattered in rhythmic urgency, echoing off the dim, narrow walls. Analysts hunched over desks, eyes fixed on streams of intercepted Morse code, fingers poised to transcribe each flicker of signal into meaning. The faint scent of ink mingled with the cold, metallic chill of the room, carrying the weight of secrets yet to be understood. On the other side of the Pacific, the Japanese fleet moved with silent precision, unaware that American eyes were straining to follow every calculation, every maneuver. Across the tables, young cryptographers whispered theories, trading notes over folded cipher sheets, aware that a single misstep could cost countless lives. Each intercepted transmission hinted at vast movements, but the patterns were buried beneath layers of code. Here, in the quiet chaos of intelligence offices, the fate of the Pacific hung in the balance. A small team of Americans, armed only with logic, persistence, and the flicker of dots and dashes, began to unravel the unthinkable secret fleet hidden in plain sight, and a war-altering revelation that would change everything. By late 1941, the Pacific was a theater of tension and anticipation. Japan had been expanding its reach across East Asia and the Western Pacific for over a decade, seizing territories and resources with calculated precision. The United States, though still officially neutral until December, had watched these movements with increasing concern. Naval intelligence recognized that Japan, all informed by messages that were partially decrypted, sometimes days old, and often incomplete. The psychological tension in the intelligence rooms was palpable. Analysts labored long hours, their eyes scanning strings of numbers, their brains calculating, pattern matching, and predicting. Many understood the stakes intimately. Failure to interpret a message correctly could mean disaster for a fleet or a colony, and potentially thousands of lives. Yet success offered the promise of foresight, the ability to act before the enemy struck, to turn the tide of a war fought across thousands of miles of ocean. Amid the cold rooms and flickering teleprinters, collaboration was essential. Linguists, mathematicians, and naval officers combined knowledge, comparing partial decryptions, hypothesizing enemy movements, and testing their assumptions against the limited intelligence available. Slowly, fragments of the Japanese naval strategy began to emerge. The cryptographers recognized patterns in fleet movements, repetitions in code numbers, and subtle inconsistencies that suggested larger operational designs. By the end of 1941, the stage was set. The Pacific had become a chessboard of immense scale, with entire fleets as pieces, and the Japanese code as the key to understanding each move. What was unseen by the enemy would soon translate into decisive operational advantage. These early efforts would culminate in revelations that not only changed the course of individual battles, but reshaped the strategic landscape of the Pacific War entirely. By early 1942, American code-breaking efforts had begun to coalesce into a more coordinated intelligence operation. Station Hypo, located in Pearl Harbor, became the nerve center for cryptographic analysis in the Pacific, under the leadership of Commander Joseph Rochefort. A small team of mathematicians, linguists, and naval officers worked tirelessly to decipher JN-25, the Japanese naval code that concealed fleet locations, operational orders, and strategic intentions. Every intercepted transmission represented a potential breakthrough, but also a test of patience, precision, and human endurance. The JN-25 code was formidable. Messages consisted of groups of 5-digit numbers, each representing words, phrases, or coordinates. These numbers were further obscured by additive ciphers, and the Japanese frequently changed code books to prevent detection. For the analysts, this meant cross-checking hundreds of messages, comparing them against known fleet movements, and employing statistical methods to detect patterns. A single misinterpretation could send an entire fleet into peril. Yet each small success offered clues that slowly revealed the enemy's moves and preparing a decisive response. It marked a turning point in how the United States would conduct naval warfare, not merely reacting to enemy movements, but using intelligence to shape and control the battlefield. The development of these capabilities reflected broader strategic foresight. While the Japanese relied on secrecy and deception, American codebreakers combined analytical rigor with methodical verification, creating an early form of signals intelligence that could influence operational decision-making on a grand scale. The work at Hypo demonstrated that technological sophistication alone was insufficient. Success required collaboration, patience, and a deep understanding of the enemy, a confrontation that would change the trajectory of the Pacific conflict and demonstrate the extraordinary power of human ingenuity and determination. The story of American codebreakers at Station Hypo is not merely one of technical prowess. It is a tale of human endurance, tactical brilliance, and the quiet, unseen battles that shaped the Pacific War. From the perspective of the men decoding JN-25, every day was a test of intellect and stamina. Young cryptographers, many in their early 20s, spent long hours hunched over intercepts, translating strings of 5-digit numbers into actionable intelligence. Fatigue and isolation were constant companions, yet a single breakthrough could alter the course of a naval engagement. Their work demanded an extraordinary blend of precision, creativity, and patience, as the smallest error could result in catastrophic consequences for deployed fleets. From a tactical angle, the value of intelligence cannot be overstated. Early decryptions allowed commanders to anticipate Japanese fleet movements, optimize the positioning of carriers, and allocate limited resources more effectively. The U.S. Navy was no longer reacting blindly to Japanese offensives. It could plan ambushes, reinforce vulnerable positions, and exploit weaknesses before the enemy could act. These tactical advantages transformed naval strategy, turning raw data into decisions with immediate operational impact. Fleet commanders relied heavily on codebreakers, early precursors to the computational intelligence that would dominate post-war operations. The integration of technology with analytical skill highlighted how innovation could extend human capability, transforming a small team of analysts into a force capable of shaping entire campaigns. The human dimension extended beyond the technical and tactical. Codebreakers carried the psychological burden of knowing that lives depended on their success. Every decoded message contained fragments of operational intent, and the responsibility to interpret these correctly weighed heavily. Many analysts understood that their work could prevent ambushes or save hundreds, if not thousands, of sailors. The tension was constant. The quiet offices and dim lights contrasted sharply with the chaos of the Pacific, yet each click of a typewriter and each transcribed code group carried immeasurable consequence. Their dedication, often invisible to the public eye, was instrumental in translating intelligence into actionable military advantage. This human tactical technological interplay was complemented by leadership and strategic integration. Admirals and fleet commanders depended on intelligence briefs to make decisions that would ripple across thousands of nautical miles. Leaders like Admiral Chester Nimitz trusted analysts' victories were silent, measured in intercepted messages rather than ship counts. Yet their vigilance carried profound ethical responsibility sway, and every decision informed by intelligence had the potential to alter countless destinies. Psychologically, the team endured a relentless mental strain. The work demanded constant focus, memory, and analytical acuity. Days blurred into nights, punctuated by typewriter clicks, Morse code bleeps, and whispered consultations over cipher sheets. Fatigue and stress were magnified by the knowledge that the enemy fleet won, in which foresight, informed by hidden calculations, dictated strategy. The American approach contrasted sharply with the Japanese reliance on operational secrecy, highlighting how integrated intelligence could convert information into decisive action. The enemy angle also provides crucial insight. Japanese planners had meticulously designed JN-25 to conceal movements, yet human predictability and operational patterns left openings. American analysts exploited these gaps, demonstrating that intelligence could nullify even sophisticated security measures. By anticipating Japanese intentions, the U.S. Navy gained a strategic edge, allowing them to orchestrate ambushes and conserve resources. The contrast between encrypted secrecy and deciphered vulnerability became a defining factor in naval engagements. Finally, the technological angle extended beyond machinery to methodology. Early computational devices, tabulation techniques, and pattern recognition strategies represented an evolution in military intelligence. The integration of these tools with human analysis created a force multiplier, enabling a small team to influence vast theaters of war. Code-breaking at Hypo was not just about solving ciphers, it was about transforming intelligence into actionable operational guidance. This fusion of human and technological skill set the stage for decisive interventions in the Pacific Theater, demonstrating that foresight, rigor, and innovation could alter the trajectory of history. As patterns emerged, partial decryptions coalesced into actionable intelligence, setting the stage for the decisive confrontation that would follow. Each angle intersected, creating a multi-dimensional understanding of how intelligence shaped the war. The stage was now set for the pivotal moment where foresight, strategy, and code-breaking converged into a turning point that would reverberate across the Pacific. By May 1942, the intelligence gathered at Station Hypo had begun to reveal the contours of an audacious Japanese plan. Intercepted JN-25 messages hinted at an operation aimed at Midway Atoll, a small but strategically vital island roughly halfway between Asia and North America. Analysts detected recurring numerical sequences corresponding to a code they suspected referred to Midway. The cryptographers had pieced together enough to suggest a coordinated carrier attack, but the exact composition of the Japanese fleet remained shrouded in secrecy. Every decoded line carried weight. The fate of American forces, and potentially the Pacific Theater itself, hung on interpretation and timing. Commander Joseph Rochefort, leading the Hypo team, understood the challenge. Reports were cross-referenced, assumptions tested, and probability assessments made. The team even staged a clever ruse. They instructed Midway AF for the first time. American intelligence had validated the target of a major Japanese operation. As the decoded signals accumulated, Washington and Pacific Fleet commanders faced crucial decisions. Admirals Nimitz, Fletcher, and Spruance were briefed with cautious confidence. The intelligence suggested not only the location, but also the timing and approximate strength of the Japanese carriers. The U.S. Navy began repositioning its forces with precision, moving carriers into ambush positions and preparing air squadrons for a decisive strike. Meanwhile, the Hypo team continued to refine their intercepts, verifying ship movements and potential reinforcements. Each day brought new fragments of information, each more critical than the last. The tension was palpable. Officers understood that the Japanese believed their operation secret. Any misstep in timing or deployment could result in catastrophe, yet the Americans, guided by decrypted intelligence, could anticipate enemy maneuvers before they occurred. The quiet offices of Hypo and Washington had become battlefronts of a different kind. Its assumption of secrecy had been shattered. Their meticulously guarded plans had been revealed through the relentless, meticulous work of American codebreakers. The ramifications were immediate. The Japanese fleet was forced into defensive operations, abandoning plans for further aggressive expansion into the Central Pacific. Meanwhile, American morale surged, bolstered not only by the victory at Midway, but by the knowledge that intelligence, ingenuity, and human perseverance could shape outcomes on a massive scale. The quiet rooms of Station Hypo had, in effect, orchestrated one of the most consequential ambushes in naval history, proving that the unseen battles of intelligence could be as decisive as those fought on open seas. In the aftermath of the first day's actions with near certainty, dictate the engagement and control the tempo of battle. American cryptographers, working far from the front lines, had become the unseen architects of victory. Their painstaking analysis of JN-25 had transformed abstract numbers into actionable insight, enabling precise timing, effective deployment, and coordinated attacks that overwhelmed a numerically superior enemy. The psychological impact on Japanese commanders was profound. Confidence in operational security had been shattered, demonstrating that secrecy alone could not shield critical plans. The Fleet 4 carriers, hundreds of aircraft, and thousands of trained pilots, Akagi, Kaga, Soryu, and Hiryu, the ability to predict, interpret, and act on information faster than the enemy. Civilian and public awareness of intelligence operations remained minimal, yet internally, the success elevated the status of cryptographic work. The Battle of Midway underscored a new dimension of warfare. The silent, cerebral contests waged behind the scenes where codes, patterns, and predictive analysis held the power to determine life and death on the battlefield. This recognition would influence post-war military doctrine, shaping how the United States approached intelligence, communications, and strategic planning for decades to come. In the weeks following Midway, the operational and strategic effects became increasingly clear. The Japanese Navy, reeling from the loss of carriers and experienced aviators, was forced to adopt a defensive posture across the Central Pacific. Their ability to project force diminished, delaying planned offensives and limiting operational flexibility. In contrast, the U.S. Navy capitalized on its newfound intelligence advantage, leveraging decrypted communications to plan subsequent operations, reinforce key positions, and anticipate enemy movements with greater accuracy. The balance of naval power had shifted irreversibly. The human impact on the American codebreakers was profound. Analysts at Hypo and in Washington witnessed the direct consequences of their painstaking labor. Precise intelligence had led to the sinking of enemy carriers, the preservation of American forces, and the establishment of strategic initiative. While the work had been largely invisible to the public, its significance was fully recognized within the Navy. Commanders often referred to decrypted intelligence as acknowledging that operational foresight had been a decisive factor in Midway. The momentum in the Pacific now belonged to the Allies. Strategically, the victory at Midway had a ripple effect across the broader war. It allowed the United States to stabilize supply lines, project naval power deeper into the Pacific, and plan the next series of offensives, including campaigns in Guadalcanal and the Solomon Islands. Intelligence became institutionalized as a central element of operational planning. The integration of cryptanalysis with tactical decision-making demonstrated a new paradigm in modern warfare. Knowledge, timing, and predictive insight could outweigh raw numerical strength or material superiority. The legacy of Midway extended beyond immediate military outcomes. The battle exemplified the profound impact of human ingenuity combined with systematic analysis. Cryptographers, mathematicians, linguists, and officers had collectively transformed raw data into actionable strategy. The victory highlighted that in modern conflict, information could serve as both shield and weapon, capable of reshaping entire theaters of war. Midway was a defining moment not only for the Pacific campaign, but for the evolution of intelligence-driven operations in military history. The Battle of Midway stands as a testament to the profound power of human intellect in warfare. In a conflict often measured by tonnage of ships or aircraft, it was insight, patience, and perseverance that tipped the scales. American codebreakers, working in dimly lit rooms far from the roar of guns and engines, transformed strings of indecipherable numbers into knowledge that reshaped the course of the Pacific War. Their work illustrates that victory is not solely the product of firepower, but of foresight, collaboration, and relentless attention to detail. Midway also revealed the intimate link between human endurance and technological innovation. Cryptographers combined analytical skill with mechanical aids, creating early models of signals intelligence that would influence military operations for decades. Yet the machines alone were powerless without the creativity, intuition, and dedication of the people behind them. The victory demonstrated that technology amplifies human capability, but cannot replace the judgment, ingenuity, and moral responsibility that underpin decision-making in war. The battle's secret fleet movements, setting the stage for one of World War II midway.